It's May, let's have a CD update. Ahoy hoy everybody and welcome to my CD update for May 2024. I have no more to listen to, no more new ones anyway. I have a stack to show, including a couple of box sets which we'll go through at the end. But here they are. So first up we have the new album by Kula Shaker, Natural Magic. So this is a signed copy bought through... Hello Willow. This is a signed copy bought through their web store. So I bought a signed CD, vinyl, the web store exclusive pinwheel version, and then I bought the tie-dye version, which I bought from my local record store at an in-store signing and met Kula Shaker and they signed it for me. But yes, this is a CD version. It's a very good album. Possibly most of our albums after Strange Folk I've only listened to once, whereas this one I've spun 3 times, so naturally it's sort of sunk in a bit more. But I would say it's probably their best one since Peasants, Pigs and Astronauts. But it might just be that I haven't given the other ones enough time. But yeah, very enjoyable album. This is Prelude to Ecstasy by The Last Dinner Party, winners of the Brit Rising Star Awards this year. This is a signed copy bought from Amazon. I also bought this on vinyl, which I have shown, which also came with a signed print. But I like that this has sort of been signed in a variety of colours. It's a very good album. I enjoy it a lot. I did find that the first half of it, what is the first side on vinyl, is a bit samey, whereas it picks up on the second side because it's a bit more diverse. When I say it's a bit samey, it's good samey, it's just a bit samey. So after 4 or 5 tracks of it, you want something a little bit different. But yeah, really enjoyed the album. Be interesting to see what happens with them, whether they continue on this path or whether they vanish into obscurity. But yeah, enjoyed that. This is a new album by Black Grape, Orange Head. This is the limited edition deluxe CD, including 3 bonus tracks, including the singles Pimp Wars and Milk. I don't honestly remember a great deal about this. It came with a set of art cardy, postcardy type thing. Well, art cards, there's nothing on the back. One of which is signed by Shaun Ryder. Shame nothing signed by Kermit, though. Yeah, I don't remember a great deal about the album. So It's Great When You're Straight, yeah, is one of my all-time favourite albums. I think it is a masterpiece. I really like Shaun Ryder's solo album that came out a couple of years ago. The other 2 Black Grape albums prior to this have been okay, but struggled to sort of live up to It's Great When You're Straight. And I suppose I could say the same about this. From what I remember when I listened to it, it sort of lacked too much of a back and forth between Kermit and Shaun, which is what sort of made It's Great When You're Straight, yeah, you know, special. This has literally only just come out. This is Queen Rock Montreal. So this concert is sort of well released in the Queen world. It's 2 shows done at the end of their We Will Rock You, not the We Will Rock You tour, ignore that bit. I can't remember which tour it was on. It was a tour in between Flash and Hot Space. Might be the Flash tour, thinking about it. I'm going to sneeze. and they put on 2 nights in Montreal at the end of a tour, purely to be filmed, and it was filmed on film, not videotaped. That was released back in the early 80s as a video called We Will Rock You, in a slightly edited form. Quite a few years ago now, the full version was released on DVD and possibly Blu-ray, certainly DVD, and they added the Live Aid footage and Live Aid rehearsals to it and what have you. That has just been re-released on 4K, but for the first time ever they've released the audio on CD and vinyl, and I've bought both CD and vinyl through Slice of Vinyl. So it's a show I'm pretty familiar with anyway. The VHS I watched hundreds of times as a kid. I've probably only watched the DVD of Rock Montreal once. So the bits that were edited out of the VHS that were put back into the Rock Montreal release are sort of slightly new to me. But a lot of it was very familiar. But it's a really good recording, sounds great. Must have for a Queen fan. This is a new album by Dua Lipa. This is the limited lenticular cover, which is absolutely fantastic. So I bought this from her website together with an album bundle, because the album bundle came with a signed print, but I'll put the signed print in here because it's CD size, so you can see that. The album bundle you'll see in my final update at the end of this month, but I've got 2 different coloured variants of it, purely because that was how to get the signed bit at the time. I like Dua Lipa. I haven't got her first album, I must get to it. Her second one was really good, and the track We're Good, which was on the Moonlight edition of her second album, is one of my favourite songs of the last 10 years. This album I was really looking forward to, because in all the blurb when it was announced, it said she was heavily influenced by Britpop on it. So I was expecting some Britpoppy tunes, but no Britpoppiness at all, which is a bit of a disappointment. Now I know that when I listen to the vinyl, hopefully I'll be able to give it a less disappointed listen and actually appreciate it for what it is. It was fine, it's just because I was expecting something Britpoppy, it never happened. I was disappointed. This was a freebie from my record store, Slice of Vinyl. Basically, they were sent loads of copies, 25 I think he said, and they ordered 2 or something. So he's flogging some off on eBay and doing quite well on that, but he gave me a copy. So this is Hyperdrama by Justice. So Justice are a French dance act. Sort of disco-y, but modern dance, rather than, drum and bass or anything like that. I didn't really know what to expect. Until I listened to it, I didn't know that's who they were. It has got guest appearances by Tame Impala, Thundercat, Miguel, and some people I've never heard of, Ramon, Conan, Moccasin, and the Flints. I quite enjoyed it. It's not stuff I would, deeply listen to, but it was good sort of background music and stuff that would have been danceable if I was in a dancing establishment. But yeah, as I say, it was decent enough, and happy to have it in the collection, and we'll spin it again at some point, I'm sure. And very nice as a freebie, and very kind of Kieran to give it to me. Next is the new album by Pet Shop Boys, Nonetheless. So although I have started getting Pet Shop Boys' early albums on vinyl, I don't really collect them, and I don't intend getting all their stuff. But when this was announced and the possibility of getting it with a signed print happened, I thought, oh yes, I'll have some of that. Let's grab the signed print. So to get the signed print, I needed to buy the bundle of CD vinyl, and that came with the signed print. Both the CD and the vinyl of it came as part of this bundle with the special editions. So the album's called Nonetheless, and the bonus with these special editions is 4 reworked versions of classic Pet Shop Boys tunes called Furthermore. So Heart Being Boring, Always on My Mind, and It's a Sin. Vocally, they're very similar. I think they're new vocals, but I wouldn't be shocked if somebody turned around and said no, they're the original vocals. But they've got a more modern dance beat behind them, more akin to the tracks on Nonetheless. So yes, it comes with in like a little slip case with individual CDs for Nonetheless and Furthermore, and then a booklet with lyrics, etc. Nothing exciting really. The actual album itself I liked. It wasn't fantastic, but it was very good. It just sort of lacked any, for me anyway, any killer tracks. But there were a couple that I particularly liked. New London Boy as sort of a bit of a throwback to West End Girls with a narration on it. So that was nice. This I've finally got round to getting. This was Music Magpie? If it wasn't, it was one of the other. No, it was World of Books on eBay. And this is the soundtrack to GoldenEye. So I now have, on one format or another, and then most of them on both vinyl and CD, all the Bond soundtracks, apart from Never Say Never Again. Never Say Never Again is very expensive. You're talking like £60 plus for a CD of it, and even more than that for a vinyl. I'm seriously considering spending that because I want to do a complete Bond soundtrack ranking, and because I want to include the 67 Casino Royale, means really I need to include Never Say Never Again. So I might try and find a stream of it or a YouTube video of it or something, just so that I can listen to it. But if I can't, then I might have to bite the bullet and pay a bit of money. But without going into too much depth, because I will be doing this video at some point, not the best Bond score. So Eric Serra does the music, and it is very electronic, and it doesn't much feel like a Bond score. Taylor Swift. So you may have seen in my vinyl update, I ended up getting all the different vinyl versions of Tortured Poets Department. CD, I have only bought the most standard one, which is the one with the manuscript as a bonus track. Might I get the rest at some point? Possibly. So it comes with lyric booklet and all the different versions have different photos. I presume so anyway, same as the vinyl does, so I presume the CDs do as well. And a little poster. So yeah, this is the only version of the album that I've listened to so far, this CD. I think I mentioned in the vinyl haul. It's a decent enough album, I've enjoyed it, but I've sort of had enough of this type of Taylor Swift album. It's very much in the vein of the last 4 or 5, although, you know, Folklore and Evermore. Do I mean Evermore? I think I do. If not, I'll put it on the screen. Were a bit more folky. They weren't that different. And the Midnights and now this are sort of poppier versions of that. And I'd just like something very different from her, which hopefully we might get now we're she's doing the Eras tour that seems to be possibly wrapping up an era. We might get something a bit different. We shall see. This is the 20th anniversary edition of Manic Street Preacher's album Lifeblood. I basically collect the Manic's anniversary reissues in this format, which thankfully now they seem to have settled on. They tend to follow a pattern, and this is no different in that you get the original album, then a CD of B-sides and remixes, and then a B-sides of demos, outtakes, live versions, stuff like that. This was bought through their web store and comes with a signed print. Oh, it's a very flimsy signed print. Normally they're on card, but I have most of these. I have signed variants of, and then it's in one of these book packs with lyrics and history and things like that. It's a good album. It's regarded as their sort of experimental album. It's, you know, sort of different from most of their other stuff. It is and it isn't. For a start, anytime you got James Dean Bradfield's voice, it sounds like the Manic Street Preachers regardless. It is more electronic, more dancey, but it's not overly so. It still, to me, sounds like a Manic's album. It's not their best, but it's a perfectly decent album. Let's do that the other way. The other way round to have this. This was a birthday present from my mum's fella Dave. This has been on my Amazon wishlist for ages. This is one of the original album classics, little box sets of ELO and Jeff Lynne. And this basically, so I have the ELO box set that covers everything up until this point on CD. So this sort of wraps it up. To be continued. So this contains Jeff Lynne's Armchair Theatre, which was okay. Nothing spectacular, but it was okay. ELO's Zoom, which is all new material as well, he says. Yes, which again was okay, nothing spectacular. Jeff Lynne's Long Wave, which is him doing classic tracks from like the, I think it's sort of like 30s to 50s or 20s to 50s. Things like She, Running Scared, Be Rich, Bothered and Bewildered, Smile, Love is a Many Splendid Thing, Beyond the Sea, various things like that, which was interesting and I quite liked. Released on the same day originally when was Mr. Blue Sky, the Very Best of Electric Light Orchestra, which was re-recordings of ELO tracks by Jeff Lynne, because he felt that modern technology meant he could do them better. And then we have Electric Light Orchestra Live, which is an 11-track live album, which is absolutely fine. I think it was TV recording or a radio recording or something like that, I seem to remember. My only gripe with this is that they're difficult to get back into the box because of it. There's always one that won't quite go in because of that. So listening to that made me realise that I was actually missing the most recent, I think it's the most recent one, or if not, it's the one before the most recent one. But of the two ELO albums that came out in the last 5, 6, however many years it is, I had one but didn't have the other. So I jumped on Amazon and for about £3 I think it was, picked up From Out of Nowhere, which again, perfectly fine. ELO have done some great tracks. I've enjoyed all their albums, but they're never going to be a favourite band. But I'm happy to own all their albums, and as I say, I've enjoyed them all. This is the God, this makes me feel old. 20th anniversary version of Girls Aloud's second album, What Will the Neighbours Say? So they did this for Sound of the Underground last year. They've done it again for What Will the Neighbours Say this year. This is a 3 CD deluxe edition with bonus disc of previously unreleased songs, B-sides, rarities and remixes, plus 28-page booklet with new sleeve notes. So disc is 3 discs. Disc 1 is the album, plus... No, just the album, ignore that. Disc 2 is B-sides, non-album singles, tracks that were used on film soundtracks and things like that. Anything from that era that has been released. Different edits of the singles, etc. And then disc 3 is a load of remixes. It comes in a nice fold out gatefold with booklet. I mean, you know, I have the original releases of all the Girls Aloud albums. I have the studio albums box set, because that came with a live album that hadn't been released before. Now I'm buying these. You know, I have these albums lots of times. I'm buying them on vinyl as well as they come out. I do love Girls Aloud. I am seeing them next month. I am very excited about that. I saw them on their farewell tour on my penultimate gig, I think it was. Might have been the last one, but I think it was a penultimate one. Yeah. So I am a big Girls Aloud fan, but this is a great album. I mean, the first 5 tracks were all singles. It's The Show, Love Machine, which is one of the greatest songs ever written, I'll Stand By You, Jump and Wake Me Up. And then there's at least 3 or 4 other bangers in the non-singles on there. This, I don't think I knew existed. And when it popped up on, I think it was Instagram, on Cherry Red Records, one of their adverts that pops up, the sponsored posts. Now, I use Cherry Red Records a lot, but I'd never seen this. But as a big fan of a Rocky Horror Show, I wanted to nab it. So this is a studio recording of Rocky Horror Show. By the NSO Ensemble, conducted by Martin Yates. But what's interesting here are some of the performers. It's mainly, most of the cast are sort of musical theatre people, most of whom have played these roles on stage, such as Howard Samuels, Kim Criswell, Adam Kane, Brian Greene. Anita Dobson is playing Magenta, he wants to say, and then he's doubting himself, so I'm going to double check that. Yes, Anita Dobson is playing Magenta and Usherette, which means they managed to rope in Brian May, who plays Eddie and performs Hot Patootie, or Whatever Happened to Saturday Night, whatever you want to call it. It varies on different releases. And also the narrator on it is Christopher Lee. So that's what sort of made this especially interesting to me. So I grabbed that and enjoyed it. A couple more Bond soundtracks. So these are new reissues through La La Land Records. So I've shown on previous CD updates their expanded versions of David Arnold's Bond scores for Tomorrow Never Dies, World Is Not Enough and Die Another Day. Yeah. So previous soundtrack releases tend to be, for various reasons, not all the music, or re-recordings, or some tracks are sort of merged together to form suites, stuff like that. These have got the complete score as heard in the film. So this is 2 discs. So disc 1, this is Octopussy, by the way, so this is John Barry's score, 1983 Roger Moore film. So it's got the complete score, including Rita Coolidge's All Time High. Then some additional music. And then it's got the original soundtrack. This too is the original soundtrack album. So I'm trying to remember what the additional music on is on this, but I don't think it gave too much detail. That's why I'm hesitating. No, it doesn't say. I can't remember what makes the additional music, but rather than part of the score presentation. But the actual score presentation is 60 minutes. The original soundtrack album was only 36 minutes, so there's a lot of music that wasn't on the original soundtrack album. And then it's also got the instrumental version of All Time High, which I think was a B-side on either the single or the 12-inch. But yes, nice expanded version of a great John Barry soundtrack. And then at the same time, they released Live and Let Die. So this was George Martin, did the soundtrack to this, 1973. Again, Roger Moore, his first Bond. So again, disc 1 is the score presentation, which is 56 minutes. Disc 2 has got the original soundtrack album, which is 32 minutes, plus additional music, which is early versions, alternate versions, extended album versions. So yeah, nice mixture on that. Really good soundtrack, that one. And they both come with, as I say, apart from not really explaining what the additional tracks are on the Octopussy one, they're good booklets full of photos and historical text, as in text explaining the history of the soundtrack, not old text. We have a new album by Kaiser Chiefs, their 8th album, called the Easy 8th album. I sort of buy Kaiser Chiefs albums out of habit nowadays. It's a nice signed copy, bought through, I think it was through their website. Normally when I say through their website, 9 times out of 10 nowadays, that's via Townsend Music. Not always, but most of the time. Yeah, I tend to buy their albums out of habit now. I've not loved any of their albums since probably their 3rd album. But my problem with them is that by and large, I want their albums to sound like those first 3 albums, sort of a post-Brit-pop, fun, upbeat tracks. And as some of you may know, I think the first 2 at least, all the songs were written by their then drummer, who left the band after the 2nd or 3rd album, whichever way round it was. And ever since, the songwriting suffered and they've gone down different paths musically, which is a shame, because when you see them live, and I saw them at Victoria's last year, they play, you know, the hits from those first 2 or 3 albums, and they are absolutely fantastic still. But their albums just don't live up to it. That said, this one was okay. It was a bit more what I want to hear. But yeah, if I'm going to listen to a Kaiser Chiefs album, I'm either going to pop on the greatest hits or stick on one of those first 2 or 3 albums. This is a new album by Pet Needs, Intermittent Fast Living. A signed copy bought through their website, Townsend Music. I also bought it on vinyl. So Pet Needs I saw supporting lottery winners almost exactly a year ago in Southampton and absolutely loved them. Bought their first 2 albums on vinyl, which were great. So when this was announced, pre-ordered it. It's really good. So they're sort of pop punk, but, you know, very melodic. When I say pop punk, I don't sort of mean, you know, Busted. Not that, you know, I like Busted, I love McFly, but I don't mean that sort of pop punk. I just sort of mean it's punk, but with pop sensibilities, so that it's got, you know, catchy melodies. There's a lot of humour to the lyrics. My only sort of gripe with this album was lyrically, it's a lot about, which, you know, you write what you know, but it's a lot about being out on tour, missing family, how their careers developing, etc. And it got a bit samey lyrically. although I preferred it on second listen, so you can take that with a bit of a pinch of salt. But yeah, good album. This is a CD single. They reissued Sophie Ellis-Bextor's Murder on the Dance Floor because of its renewed success following its use in the film Saltburn. So I nabbed this and the 7-inch at the same time. This has got 3 bonus tracks. So it's got the original Murder on the Dance Floor, the Jules and Stone mix, a Danny D remix, and the extended album version. It's fine, it's Murder on the Dance Floor, it's a great track. Mainly a collection filler. Remember, 2 box sets, both of these were birthday presents back in March. First up is Kirsty MacColl's See That Girl. So I did an unboxing of this on my birthday haul video. So if you want to see that, watch that. Comes with a nice book explaining where all the tracks came from. Because when I put this on my wish list, I thought it was all her albums and B-sides, you know, just a complete discography in a box set. But it's not. The first disc is her singles, so that's great. It's a greatest hits, basically. But then the next 5 discs are era-spanning discs. So the first one is 79 to 83, 83 to 89, 89 to 92, 93 to 96, and 99 to 2000. And there's sort of a mixture. There's a few album tracks, there's demos, there's alternate versions, there's some live tracks or radio versions, mixes, all sorts, era by era. And then disc 7 are tracks recorded for the BBC, either on radio or TV, covering all her career. And then disc 8 is called Other People's Songs, and it's tracks by other artists that she features on, well, she does, but some of them are also tracks that she's written for other artists. For example, it's got Tracy Ullman doing You Broke My Heart in 17 Places, but she also does backing vocals on that. But it goes right back to her in-law. Was it her in-law? No, her stepmum, Peggy Seeger, doing Darling Annie, and she just plays instruments on that. You can't really detect that it's her. Then tracks with Jules Holland, Billy Bragg, David Byrne, her dad Ewan McCall, Happy Mondays, Holly Johnson, Alison Moyet, Wonder Stuff, and some others. But yeah, it's a really good compilation set, whatever you want to call it, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I am now getting her studio albums. I picked up Kites, I think it was. No, Tropical Brains. Oh, whichever one it was, it was done as a Record Store Day release, and as I see them, I will pick up the other ones as well. This does also contain on one of the discs her second album. I think it was her second album that was never released. It does contain all of that. And then the other box set, again for my birthday, is the Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion box set, which is a beast. Again, if you want to see an unboxing of it, check out my birthday haul. And show all the bump that comes in it, because there's lots of paraphernalia and what have you in here. So CD1 is Use Your Illusion 1, CD2 is Use Your Illusion 2. Use Your Illusion 1, the version of November Rain, is the new version with an orchestra. Then CD 3 and 4 is Live in New York at the Ritz Theatre in 1991, which is sort of like a warm-up show for the Use Your Illusion tours. Then 5, 6 and 7 is Live in Las Vegas, which is more of a celebratory Use Your Illusion tour show, and as you can tell by the fact it's over 3 discs, is a lot longer. And then it's also got a Blu-ray of the Live in New York show as well, which I haven't watched yet, so I can't comment on that. Yeah, I mean, the album's been remastered, they sound great, but they always sounded good anyway. The live stuff, a lot of fun, very interesting. Axl's in a good mood on both of them, which is always a boon. He's on good form vocally, the band sound great. Yeah, if you're a Guns N' Roses fan, well worth having. So that's it. That's all the CDs I've listened to since January. When I've got a decent enough stack, I shall do the next one of these. Thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks. Bye.